Okay, I made it. So I had some technical difficulties here. I was supposed to start at 9:30 and my little phone holder for the tripod, whatever the hell you call it. Damn thing broke, so I had to rig up a mount. Hopefully the phone doesn't fall off of what it's on right now. I think it's pretty stable. But anyway, this is the October video, October 2023. I'm going to take you through the astrology here. So I'm changing the format a little bit. For a while, to be honest, I've been dreading these monthly videos because usually I record it and then there's this whole process. I record it, I take way too long to spit out what I want to say. Then I have to edit the damn thing in iMovie. Then I have to compress the damn thing in Handbrake. So it's like a day or two later before the whole process is done. You know, and I do put those images in and charts and, you know, the names of things, you know, names of these obscure things I say. I don't think that makes a big difference. I think people really just want my message. So, you know, in future when I'm doing videos on mythological and historical topics, I'm definitely going to add in the visual aids and the names and, you know, things like that. But I think with the monthlies, you know, and the astrological events that come up, people just want the message. So I'm just going to give you the message. And already I feel better about my monthlies. Now I'm just turning it into a live, and I'm just like, all right, here we go. I'm going to dump it onto YouTube. And when it's all over, I'm going to download it for my own records so I have it. And, you know, that's going to be that. And there's not this whole pain in the nuts editing and compression process. So October, we're finally getting to the good stuff. Now, it's not going to be easy, but you know what? You as a human soul, as a higher dimensional being, as a God in your own right, you know, and some people cringe to hear me say that, but we're all gods in our own rights. We're all higher dimensional beings that come to live here to have material experience. We're all fallen angels. This whole thing about fallen angels, it's not about evil beings from higher dimensions that come here to steal your soul. It's about souls, which are eternal beings. Your soul, everybody's soul is God. It's a piece of this thing we call God. It's a little branch off us, a little extension. So yeah, we're all fallen angels. We're all higher dimensional beings. And higher dimensional beings in a physical experience, sometimes they go off the rails, they get a little greedy, they get a little corrupt, and you know, they forget themselves. So remembering is a big purpose for being here. So anyway, we're getting to the good stuff. And this is a great alchemy opportunity. This month, the rest of this decade, and all this time going forward, we're actually going to see a payoff from, you know, those of us that do the internal work, that do the alchemical work to turn our lemons into lemonade. We're going to start seeing payoffs. But it's going to be a little rough because superficiality that we've been living under has to fall apart. And it's interesting, especially the solar eclipse this month. Superficiality, the falling away of superficiality is a huge theme in this month. We're going to get into that. That's going to be a big deal with the October 14th solar eclipse, which is at what? 26? Yeah. 26 Virgo, conjunct the fixed star Spica. Some people say Spica, but it's Spica. Spica it's a star of media, a star of fame, a star of creativity, performing arts, you know, and recognition. It's like the look at me star. Well, the look at me factor has gotten this world into a shit show of a place, and it's going to get put in its place. So, a lot of people getting put in their places lately. Professional career narcissists are just imploding right now. And, you know, the whole political process, I can't stand it. I can't stand political parties. But it's interesting, you know, people on the, you know, the do no wrong left. You know, I can't stand the right. You know, it's like the right, they're a bunch of wannabe tough guys, and the left, it's a bunch of like glorified wimps. And they're like, we're just so nice to everyone, and we love everyone. Well, it's funny, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, has had to make huge policies because the Speaker of the House of Commons, you know, part of Canada's Parliament, he honored a Ukrainian World War II veteran. Well, this Ukrainian World War II veteran was in the fucking Waffen SS. Now, the Waffen SS, that was the military arm that went into combat of the SS. You don't know what the SS is. The SS was like, it was a paramilitary organization in Nazi Germany. So it was like the Nazi Party's muscle. You had the regular German military, then you had the SS. So the German military, they were fighting for their country. They got swept up in the whole thing. The SS were like diehard Nazis. And they recruited heavily in Ukraine. So this 98-year-old World War II veteran, you know, the story is like nobody checked. Oh, they didn't know that he was a Ukrainian Waffen SS veteran. It's like, no, I think they knew and they wanted to slip it by because the war in Ukraine is the second Nazi invasion of Russia. Well, the attempted Nazi invasion of Russia, which is going horribly. Oh, shit. I think my stream's all fucked up. I think I'm good. All right. So, yeah, I think they were trying to slip it by, and it didn't work. So this Parliament member had to step down as, you know, Speaker of the House of Commons in the Canadian Parliament, and it's a big shitstorm. And then another thing that happened, there's this oh shit, what's his name? Jamal shit, I should have written it down. You search as a congressman from the state of New York, Jamal, fell right out of my head. Anyway, House of Reps in the United States. He pulled a fire alarm in one of the extensions of the Capitol building because there was a vote. There was a vote scheduled to I'm losing my words. There was going to be a vote to at least postpone or avoid the government shutdown, the U.S. government running out of money. So this congressman pulled the fire alarm because the Democrats wanted more time to, you know, get their story straight and get their shit together for the vote. So this guy went and pulled the fire alarm, and then he goes, oh, it was an accident. I was trying to get out the door, and it's like, well, one of those buttons that opens the door doesn't look like a fucking fire alarm switch. So, you know, these narcissists are just, they're imploding. You know, it's like, you know, the narcissist and the right are imploding too, you know. But I can't stand when, you know, wimps can be bullies too. They can be sneaky fucking bullies that basically emotionally and psychologically bully people instead of physically bullying them. So it's nice to seeing the wimpy bullies falling on their face because, you know, especially since 2016, you know, like the wimp is like the new conqueror. You know, it's like all these people in the population who would never go against the crowd suddenly had a forum to, you know, all get together and, you know, start spewing their hate, basically. So it's all falling apart. So anyway, this month, we're going to see more political shit hitting the fan. We're going to see the economy do some crazy shit. I think that's pretty much inevitable. And, was it politics? And another thing, I haven't directly addressed this whole prospect of a new lockdown. Now you're seeing this in the news, you know, they want to scare everyone about the Rona again. and get everyone wearing masks and getting employers to fire people for not getting their needlecraft, their holy and sacred anointings and their boosts. But people, I don't think people are going to go for it. I think maybe in like the most hardcore, like insano, blue cities in America. But I think even there it's falling apart. So that whole thing's falling apart. They can't jumpstart that thing. But I think what's going to happen is possible that people are going to start succumbing to the side effects of the needlecraft. It's going to look like there's a new wave of Rona, but it's really the side effects. And, if you go down certain rabbit holes with like, what viruses really are, there's good evidence to suggest that viruses are a healing reaction. It's basically your body is trying to heal something. So people who got the sacred anointings of the needlecraft, their bodies are virus factories because the DNA has been tampered with, it's been corrupted, and the body's trying to cope with this. So I think it's going to look like a new wave of Rona, but it's side effects kicking in. There will be an attempt to use this as proof that there is a new wave of Rona, but it's like this shit's not sticking. None of the narratives is sticking. The Rona narrative is falling apart. The Ukraine narrative is falling apart. The whole UFO alien thing is not really sticking. People aren't going for it. People are trying to basically also get the president to declare a state of emergency over the climate crisis so that they can basically use these like Patriot Act type powers to regulate your life and boss you around and determine what you can and cannot do. It doesn't look like that's going to work. So it's a shitstorm. It's like I've been saying for a few years. It's like we're coming down. We're in the last season of Game of Thrones, and it's going to take a few years to play out. But a lot of these people are going to fall apart. And, it's ironic with the whole like Trump versus Biden thing. The two of them the wheels may fall off of the both of them, especially by, the end of next year. I'll get into that stuff a little bit. But, yeah, you're going to see the scandals rolling. You're going to see more political scandals. And there's going to be something about, because of one of the fixed stars involved, let me get the terminology here. You're going to see a scandal, I think, dealing with sexual violence and perversions. Yeah. Not sure how that's going to come out exactly, but there are plenty of there's plenty of that stuff going on. I'm thinking sometime around or after the lunar eclipse, which is October the 28th, you're going to see something like that. So all kinds of stuff going on here. And, the market, I think we are in a year that's very much like 1929. It's not going to be a repeat of 1929. So here are the common factors. So May 6, 1929, you had Jupiter and Rahu, the north node of the moon, Dragon's Head. They were conjunct at 28 degrees sidereal Aries. By the way, I'm reading sidereal visible sky astrology here, so if the placements of planets and stars in the signs and degrees sound wrong, it's intentional. I'm using the visible sky. I'm not using the mainstream tropical, so don't get too much poop in your pants over it. So yeah, sidereal, May 6, 1929. Jupiter, expansive energy. Jupiter loves to expand and start things, but is not great at follow through. Rahu is the same way. Rahu is Loki. Rahu is Lucifer. They are flashes of lightning. They are kickstarters. They start things. So the Rahu archetype and energy starts things, doesn't see things through. So Rahu and Jupiter have this in common. Rahu is also very expansive. So they start things, but they don't follow them through. And things can get really half-assed when they create something together. So in my opinion, 1929 created there have always been deep states, but 1929 created the corporate financial deep state as we know it, military industrial entertainment complex, deep state as we know it, and created the whole financial order we live under. So, and I think that had a lot to do with, it was created by this energy of Jupiter and Rahu meeting in Aries, 28 degrees, sidereal Aries. So that happened May 6, 1929. That set the stage. Then you move on to October the 24th, 1929. That was called Black Tuesday. So that was the first stock market crash within a week's time. And then what was it? 5 days, what was it, 5 days later? No, I think I have them mixed up. There was a Black Tuesday and a Black Thursday. So one of them was the 24th of October, and then the other one was the 29th of October in 1929. Now, something you had on the first big explosion in the stock market in 1929 in October, you had Mars and Ketu conjunct 19 degrees sidereal Libra. So Libra, it's the merchant scale. The symbol, it's a set of old-fashioned scales. So Libra is the marketplace. Libra deals with the trading, deals with trade and the give and take of commerce. Also the give and take of politics. So Mars and Ketu meeting in Libra, which is always in the fall. When they meet in the fall, there's a tendency for the stock market to crash historically. So that happened in 19 Libra. Now, you fast forward to 2023, May 21st, you had Jupiter and Rahu meeting 9 degrees sidereal Aries. So first off, different placement. Back in 1929, I was in a lunar mansion called Vesta. Vesta is the goddess of the, the hearth fires, the goddess of the home and hearth. She was the goddess of sacrificial fires. So, I'm not talking about like humans getting sacrificed to the gods. People used to burn food, especially meat, like the fatty cuts of meat, because they burn well. These were offerings to the gods. Now, Vesta, because she was the goddess of these fires, the idea was she would get a portion of that energy, because she was basically like a middleman for the gods, right? Because it was the fire that would bring the smoke and the scent to the gods. So, and Vesta, Vesta can be sharp-tongued. It can be violent. Uranus retrograde in 1939, September 1st, and went retrograde, helped kick off World War II. So, having Jupiter and Rahu meet in Vesta back in 1929, I think it speaks to the economy, and people's livelihoods were sacrificed so we could get globalism as we know it, which came about after World War II at the foundation of the UN. So there was a big sacrifice made there. Now, May 31st, 2023, Rahu and Jupiter met 9 degrees Aries. That is in the lunar mansion of the Dioscuri. Dioscuri are the immortal twins, Castor and Pollux, the twins of Gemini, actually. And they were basically, they were gods in their own right. They were elevated to the status of gods. And they were called upon to help travelers, to help anybody who was in need. Sailors were big on Castor and Pollux, on the Dioscuris, the twins. They would invoke them for safety. So they're basically the cavalry riding to the rescue. That's kind of the deal with them. So having it in that lunar mansion in 2023, that means that instead of the economy and, you know, people's livelihoods, their assets and their savings just being sacrificed for the good of globalism, people aren't going to get as fucked as they did in 1929. But I think the change that is coming is possibly a lot bigger than 1929. Now, a saving grace also in 2023. When Rahu and Jupiter met on May 31st in Aries at that 9-degree mark, Saturn from Aquarius was watching. Saturn was at, let me do the math real quick. So 60 degrees away, that's a sextile. That is a very harmonious, beneficial angle. And, you know, I did a live video. What's the difference between an angle and an angel? It's just the transposition of two letters. So angle, A-N-G-L-E, angel, A-N-G-E-L. So you transpose the E and the L, angels and angles. Angels are the angles of planets. When they're in beneficial angles, they help you. When they're in kind of malevolent angles, they can destroy shit. They can teach you harsh lessons. So, you know, basically the angel of Saturn, the angle of Saturn in 2023 was looking directly at Jupiter and Rahu meeting in Aries from 60 degrees away. And it was, Saturn was coming towards America's natal moon, which is 7 degrees sidereal Aquarius. So Saturn was saying, okay, Jupiter and Rahu, you know, I know you fuckers are going to create something, but this time, unlike 1929, I'm watching you two. Now, since Saturn's the master of magic, really in manifestation, and since Saturn is the ruler of the 3D material world, Saturn decides what can be done and what cannot be done. So that's a big check on these globalist, you know, international financier fuckers. So very helpful. So the gods are on our sides. Remember that. So now, when we go to October the 3rd this year, 2023, we get another meeting between Mars and Ketu. This year, it's going to be in a much more special place than it was in 1929. October the 3rd, Mars and Ketu will meet at 0 degrees Libra. Now, Mars, the warrior energy, it can build things, it can also destroy things, conquer things, it can be violence, upheaval. Ketu takes things away. And so and Ketu can destroy things. So when you put Mars and Ketu together, that can be a big friggin' destruction. That's like I said. Stock market historically crashes when there's a Mars and Ketu meeting in Libra. Now that happens every few years. What is that? Because what? Ketu takes 18.5 years to go around. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to meet up every 2 years. But there are other circumstances. But 0 degree mark. 0 degree is one of the miracle degrees. 0 and 29 degrees. Shocking, unbelievable, crazy things happen when planets meet at 0 degrees. Or if you have planets in your birth chart at 0 degrees. So if you're curious about that, I know an astrologer who can help you with that. And I don't do readings to entertain. I do readings to basically give people a map to understand themselves better. Understand their natural talents, their pitfalls, their potential pitfalls. It's about learning to live for you. That's what that's what real astrology is a tool for. It's about learning to live for you. The most draining thing you can do is to live purely for other people. Because you get to the end of your life and you're like, the hell did I get out of this? So, yeah. That's really what reading astrology is about. So anyway, yeah, meeting at the 0 degree mark. So 0 degrees, now 0 Libra is also, it's like the hinge point of the whole zodiac. Because you got 12 signs. So you got Aries 1, Aries is the first, Taurus is the second, Gemini third, Cancer fourth, Leo fifth, Virgo sixth. Then Libra is the seventh. So they're meeting right at this halfway point in the zodiac. So, and basically the zodiac has like a light side and a dark side. Now, dark doesn't mean sinister and evil. It just means, to me, non-superficial. So Aries through Virgo, that is that's the light side of the zodiac. That's basically like, it's like all the stuff your parents want for you. It's like, oh, go to college, get a great job, make a shitload of money, have kids, buy a house with a white picket fence. And it's like, you know, and people who love you, you know, especially parents, family members, they want good things for you. But in the course of only wanting good things for people, sometimes we don't want people to get wise, because to get wise you have to go through misadventures and you have to go through some calamities. So the calamities and the misadventures that make you wise, that's the dark side of the zodiac. That's Libra through Pisces. Those are those other 6 signs. So 0 Libra, that's that hinge point between the two of them. So Mars and K2 meeting there, it's almost like they're basically putting the kibosh on superficiality, and they're saying, no, you can't just be superficial about everything, and you can't just look fucking fabulous all the time, and you can't make looking fabulous the purpose of your life. You're going to have to take your lumps. You're going to have to learn hard lessons so you can grow up and get wise. Well, that's what they're going to help us do here. So, yeah, I think they're going to, it's kind of laying a little landmine for us here, is a way you can look at it. And I think it's laying a landmine for the eclipse. So K2 is still going to be at that 0 degree point during the solar eclipse on the 14th. So K2 is going to be 0 Libra. Sun and Moon are going to be just 4 degrees away, 26 Virgo. So it's like K2 and then the Sun and the Moon involved in the lunar eclipse are in like 2 different signs, but right near each other. So it's this weird, it's like a barrier's been put up, and it's like, no, you're not just gonna, you're gonna have to go back through the light side of the zodiac, take an honest look at your material life before you can, you know, move on to the higher material, to the more spiritual stuff, to the more, you know, the grittier stuff. So that's interesting. And also, this Mars K2 meeting, 0 degrees Libra, it's in conjunct within 1 degree. It's in conjunct, so 100 and what? Let me see. It's like 210 degrees from, so 30 degrees off of an opposition, in conjunct with the retrograde Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune can be about delusions. You know, when you delude yourself, you fool yourself. It can be about that, but when Neptune goes retrograde, Neptune basically shows you how you've been fooling yourself, how you've allowed other people to fool you. So that's pretty interesting here. Now, Neptune is at home in Pisces, and you know, Neptune and Pisces, they have a really dark side, and the dark side of Neptune and Pisces, it's being a martyr. Okay? When you're a martyr, you get drained because you do nothing for yourself. You don't live life for yourself. And it beats the shit out of you. So, and it's interesting, Christianity, well, and Islam, really, and Judaism too, the biblical religions, they took their current forms and they were founded in their, more or less in their current forms in the age of Pisces. Well, and actually, they were first founded and then they took their current forms in the age of Pisces, which is the last 2,000 years. Pisces is where we work all our karma off. It's where we get the shaft in order to work off our karma. So that's part and parcel of the Christian life. You know, the Bible says, you know, was it in the letter of Ephesians, it says, slaves, just obey your masters, and imagine your masters were Jesus Christ himself. And it's like, holy shit. Like, they do not want people to be free if they included that in there. So Pisces, and again, Neptune being at home in Pisces, it can deal with where you give yourself to a cause mindlessly and selflessly. And to me, selflessness is a dirty word. So when you do that, selflessness brings about all the bad things in the world. So the Crusaders, the witch hunters, the jihadists, the Nazis, the Soviets, all these people were selfless people. They had no self, and they were like just giving themselves to the movement. And the movement was like, you're going to need to go kill those people to prove your loyalty. And they're like, oh, anything you say, just save me. So, you know, Neptune is trying to show us not to do this, not to sacrifice ourselves to aristocrats, because aristocrats fund and run governments and religious organizations. And for the last 3 years, people have been sacrificing themselves to aristocrats who own drug companies. These drug companies own governments. So it's trying to show us, and it's probably going to show us what the consequences are for doing something like that. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then, you know, this star, this fixed star Spica, that's at 29 Virgo, right next to where Mars and Ketu meet. That is like the look at me star. So it's the star of stars, you know, of movie stars, rock stars, you know, performing artists that get famous. Now, it's interesting. Nanotechnology has made everybody feel like they can be a star, like they can be famous. You know, back in the 80s, Andy Warhol, the artist, prophetically said, in the future, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. Well, social media, here it is. Now, the next day, something interesting is happening. There is going to be a test of the... there's basically like a federal emergency broadcast system that's being set up in America. So, you know, it's like on TV where the TV goes, you know, this is the test of the emergency broadcast. That's in case there's some disaster that the, you know, government can put out messages. Well, they're going to have a federal one, and they want to tie the cell phones into it. So on that day, October 4th, shut your phone off and wrap it in tinfoil or something. Throw it in the refrigerator, in a freezer. Because I think that's going to put more spyware than ever on people's phones. Now, there's also going to be a burst of 5G signals. So I'm told that the 5G network has never put out a continuous burst like this for more than 30 seconds. Well, apparently, I haven't had the time to painstakingly research this, but apparently from about 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S., the 5G network is going to be shooting electrons for 2 hours, which apparently hasn't been done before. This is a big thing that the truthers are all up in arms about, and, you know, it's like the latest thing to get worked up about, and it's like, you know, it's just like the, oh, the mosquitoes are going to needlecraft us after they bite the people who've been needlecrafted. The spike proteins are gonna get us. It's like one of these things. Oh, the La Palma tsunami. 2 hours of 5G energy. You know, if this is true, not a great thing, but you know, on the other side of the coin, you're getting hit with all kinds of fucking scalar energy that amateur scientists don't have the sensors and the equipment in their home laboratories to even detect this shit. You know, Raytheon operates a giant version of HARP down in Antarctica on behalf of DOD and, you know, God knows who. You know, it's real owners, whoever they are. You know, this thing shoots fucking neutrinos through the planet. So it's like, I think that's a little hairier and a little more powerful than a bunch of 5G towers. But, you know, I don't know. It could be a big deal. But, a pure speculation here. A 2-hour burst of 5G energy could potentially really fuck with the DNA of people who have been anointed by the holy needlecraft, by the sacred needlecraft. I don't know. It's food for thought, isn't it? But at the very least, shut your phone off, wrap it in foil, throw it in the freezer if you don't want more spyware. Okay. Let's talk about the solar eclipse a little bit. So, yeah. Oh, and then too, Rahu and, K2 and Mars meeting at 0 Libra. It's in the lunar mansion Vulcan. Vulcan was the god of smiths. So Vulcan made beautiful metal things for the gods. He made magical weapons for the gods. And he lusted after Aphrodite, aka Venus, who, you know, was the most beautiful being in all of creation. And he was, you know, he was like kind of gnarly looking. I think he had a gimpy leg from falling out of Mount Olympus, or I think he got thrown out of Mount Olympus and hit the ground. So he was kind of gimpy and hunchbacked, and he was kind of gnarly looking, but he lusted after her, and he was always trying to make beautiful things to impress her. So this lunar mansion Vulcan, which is partly in Virgo, partly in Libra, it can be all about, you know, the finer things in life and, you know, expensive tastes. It can be very superficial. So having Mars and K2 meet in Vulcan, this is like a wrecking ball to the superficiality that we live under in this society. And then, again, that solar eclipse, 26 degrees Virgo on the 14th, that's going to be in Vulcan. Solar eclipses, what's this all about? Solar eclipse, like a new moon, it's about the beginning of a cycle. So, it's the beginning of a 6-month cycle. Because you get sun and moon, soul and mind, they meet one another. They create something new. So it's 26 Virgo, where sun and moon meet, sidereal. K2 still at 0 Libra, also in Vulcan. And then you've got Mercury is at what? 23 degrees Virgo. So it's in the lunar mansion of Soul. It's conjunct the eclipse. So this is interesting. So, you know, Mercury is basically trying to get in on this thing. And really, Mercury is at a lower degree. So Mercury is kind of using the power of this eclipse. So what's Mercury? Mercury is communication. Mercury is media. Mercury can be the skill of your hands. And Mercury, in the lunar mansion Soul, symbol of soul is basically a hand. And because the rays of the sun, you know, in depicted certain ways can look like a hand. So soul is all about the work of your hands, you know, in creating things. So Mercury, and Mercury is also the intellect. Mercury wants to help, I think, create a new paradigm. Create a new paradigm. Mercury wants to help, I think, create a new paradigm. Mercury wants to help, I think, create a new paradigm. Mercury wants to help 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 where this sort of superficiality gets struck down, because Ketu takes things away. Rahu brings things in. Ketu takes things away. Ketu wants to liberate us from the material world. So, yeah, so Mercury is kind of trying to drive the bus here with this eclipse, where Ketu is trying to take away this superficiality. And that lunar mansion Vulcan is Mars ruled. So even with the eclipse, you have this Ketu Mars energy, which destroys shit. You know, when Ketu and Mars meet at the galactic center, which the galactic center goes through Sagittarius and Gemini, things like 9/11 happen. Things like, you know, the Kennedy assassination and the beginning of the Vietnam War happened. Things like the atom bombs dropped on Japan and the Nazis coming and making a new home in America. That kind of shit happens. So, yeah, there's Mars K2 energy mixed into this whole eclipse. Now, Mercury being at 23 Virgo, Mercury is in its strongest possible place because it's at home in Virgo. It's at home in Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini, but it likes Virgo a lot more. Because Virgo is all about slowing down, taking the time to figure things out, taking time to write things carefully, to speak carefully. You know, Gemini is like a motor mouth reality TV kind of thing. So, yeah, Mercury is kind of in charge of this eclipse. So, going to be huge things in the media. And again, politics. Libra deals with politics because it's the give and take. Libra has this influence from, you know, the star Spica is 1 degree away. It's got the lunar mansion Vulcan partly within it. So it's like the superficiality and the look at me and the political show. It's going to take a hit. So, and an interesting thing too is there hasn't been a solar eclipse in this position since 2005, since the last cycle. So whatever's going on in your life in 2005, these themes are coming back. You know, so for me, you know, I was in the military, and, you know, I respect the military greatly, but the U.S. military hasn't defended the United States since the War of 1812. It hasn't won a war since World War II. I was like, these people are dangerously stupid. This isn't for me. You know, that's kind of where I was. So I don't want to get too much into that. But these themes from 2005 are coming back. So whatever was going on in your life, look at it and sit with it and reflect on it. Okay. Now, Uranus, which is in Vesta, will be in conjunct this eclipse. So what's that? It's 150 degrees away. Not a harmonious angle, not a harmonious angel. So, yeah, the angel Uranus will not be harmonious. Uranus is the earth shaker. Uranus destroys the status quo, turns things on its head, turns the world on its head. Uranus is a disruptor, and Uranus is rebellion that gets us to kind of like break out of conformity and learn how to be ourselves. So unexpected things are going to happen in politics and in public health. We're going to get wake-up calls, and it's like they're already coming out because we're just a matter of days away from this. So, you know, like a month on either side of eclipses, things start happening. So, yeah. And, you know, Jupiter is within 10 degrees of Uranus. So they're not super close, but they're feeling each other. And Jupiter expands whatever it's near. Jupiter is at the lower degree. Jupiter is at 18 at this time. Uranus is at 28. So Jupiter's giving just a little bit of expansion and making Uranus, you know, crazier. They're going to meet up in April 2024. So, yeah. Now, another thing with the nodes, so not with Ketu, but with Rahu, with the dragon's head. Rahu is Gandanta. Rahu is at 0 Aries in a fire sign on the verge of going into Pisces. This is a big deal. So this is where Rahu was at the end of 1967. In January 1968, Rahu went into Pisces, just like it's going to do November this year. So 1968, Vietnam was at its height. You had the Tet Offensive, like before the Tet Offensive, the American media, the Pentagon, the government, CIA, who runs the media, could make it look like America could win this war in Vietnam, and it's going great. Well, then in 1968, what was that? February. It was a month, because Tet, it was like the Vietnamese celebration of the Chinese New Year in February. The North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong launched a major offensive, kicked the shit out of the South Vietnamese and the Americans, occupied cities for a while. It was a disaster. The war looked horrible by that point. So we're about 2-3 months off from some Tet Offensive kind of a thing. So this is probably looking like, I don't know, NATO, which gets strong-armed by the U.S., is going to get its ass kicked by the Russians, which big surprise, right? Because Western Europeans have been snowflakes for the last 75 years. We've been in the narcissistic World War II party for the last 75 years. So it's hangover time, kids. You can't stay wasted forever. So interesting stuff here. Now, like I said before, Rahu and Ketu, they're at that balance point. So 0 Aries, 0 Libra. In the tropical zodiac, these are the spring and fall equinox points. So we're at this tip in the scales in this balance point here. So yeah, some wild shit's going to happen. 1968, you had more protests, more rioting. All that stuff's going to happen around the world. Because people are waking up to the assholes that are bossing them around. These government gangsters, these banker gangsters. Not everybody who works in banking, but, like the C-levels. They're rotten sons of bitches. You can't get around that. I knew a CIA guy who went right to work for one of these banks. It's one of the banks where people start dropping dead shortly thereafter. So, yeah. So anyway. Yeah, when Rahu really goes into Pisces, it's like it's slipping into the dark. So it's like 0 degrees Aries, it's still at that Dioscuri lunar mansion, the twins, the horsemen that help people. Well, Rahu is like slipping out of their hands and into Pisces, which is the deep ocean. So, yeah. Pretty interesting. But don't take the face value of things. Don't take the world at face value. The gods are on our side. Just remember that. But it's gonna get a little rocky here. All right. What else? Like I said, October the 3rd, Mars and Ketu activated this eclipse. Gave it some friggin' oomph. And again, with the eclipse happening in Vulcan, it's a Mars-ruled lunar mansion. So Mars met Ketu October the 3rd in Vulcan in its own lunar mansion that it rules. So a lot of Mars energy in this eclipse. So yeah, this could be a day for the markets to have some drama. Mars Ketu again, when they met at Galactic Center in 2020 in February, we had the whole pandemic. We had the Rona scare, So yeah, Mars and Ketu can do a number on things. All right, yeah, I talked about 1929 already. Let's go through my notes here. Another thing too, Venus is in a similar placement to where it was in around October 2015. You know, Venus deals with your wealth, your assets, your material possessions, deals with your relationships too. Look at where all that stuff was at that time in 2015, because those themes are coming back. And it's like you're either stuck in the same themes or you resolve those themes and you kind of leveled up. See where you're at. Okay, lunar, we're getting there here. Lunar eclipse, October the 28th, 10 degrees. 10 degrees sidereal Aries in the Dioscuri. Now this is interesting. This eclipse, again, if you think back to May the 31st, 2023, Jupiter and Rahu met 1 degree from where this lunar eclipse is going to happen. So Jupiter and Rahu met back in May, 9 degrees Aries. The lunar eclipse will be 10 degrees Aries. Jupiter and Rahu primed this eclipse. So again, that Jupiter and Rahu in Aries. Aries is leadership. So the leadership in the world wanted to meet up. They wanted to do a half-assed, set up another fucking half-assed Ponzi scheme like they did in 1929. Then they wanted to start another world war, World War III, to get us to accept it. That's what they did with World War II. They set up their Ponzi scheme in 1929. They manipulated the market. They caused a crash. Then they had World War II to traumatize the planet and get everyone to accept their new economic order. Like I said, Saturn's not going to allow that shit to happen. Saturn's not going to allow another Great Depression and another World War to happen for their benefit. Some crazy shit. And it's not going to be like that again. We're going to go through some fucking pain, but it's not going to be like that again. But Jupiter Rahu meeting almost at this eclipse point primed it. Again, Saturn was looking at it. Saturn was like, no half-ass bullshit. You must play by natural law or you will be destroyed. So, this lunar eclipse will destroy people who are not following natural law. And, you know, this lunar eclipse will be conjunct, again, El Sharatan. El Sharatan, this is a fixed star in Aries, in sidereal Aries. It has the energy of Saturn and Mars. You put Saturn and Mars together, it's like gasoline and fire. That's a kaboom. El Sharatan deals with, again, sexual violence and sexual perversion. So, probably scandals galore here. This is the sign, Aries, of the exaltation of the sun. So the sun, there's going to be some sun energy here. Well, who's the sun? Sun is rulers, royals, executive figures like presidents, prime ministers, governors, mayors, you know, corporate C-level officers, you know, especially CEOs. So, yeah, and it's very interesting. This is conjunct President Biden's natal moon in his 6th house of struggles, battles, and diseases. So, and then the moon. The moon, it's your intuitive consciousness, it's your emotions. Well, it's also your physical body. So physical body in the house of disease might not be good for him. I think if a bad enough scandal came out about him, you know, his handlers would probably hit him with a syringe or something and be like, oh, he died from the Rona. You know, who the hell knows? You know, yeah, that could be a shit show for him. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, some sexual scandals with leadership, I think. Something to do with that. This lunar eclipse. So what's a lunar eclipse? Solar eclipse, like I said, sun and moon conjunction, right? Lunar eclipse, it's like a full moon where you have sun and moon in opposite signs. But then you have the nodes involved, Rahu or Ketu creating the shadows. So you've got, like I said, you get the moon in Dioscuri, the horsemen, these guys who want to help people. These twins, these divine twins who want to help people. So that's where the moon is. Now the sun, which is shining the light, because the full moon is illuminated by the sun. The sun is in Favonius. Favonius is it's a lunar mansion in Libra. Sun's at 10 Libra. Favonius deals with, learning and creativity and harmony, because Favonius is the west wind that brings in the spring and the summer, blows out the north wind. But Favonius can also be very restless. So, this can be a time where, the people get very restless, just with all of the nonsense going on. Favonius is ruled by Rahu. And, Rahu going from being Gandanta, going from Aries to Pisces. When planets are at these cusps between these water and fire signs, it's like steam. It creates emotional pressure. So people are getting ready to go nutso like they did in the 60s. So yeah, Favonius will lend this restlessness. Mercury will be at 16 Libra, 6 degrees away from the sun, also in Favonius. So making people, mentally restless. And then Mars is going to be conjunct Mercury at 17 Favonius. So Mars is in on the restlessness. Yeah, Mars is doing a hell of a job this month. So, yeah, that's some shit, man. It is quite interesting. Quite interesting. So, yeah. To be a hell of a month. And then, the last thing here is October the 31st. We call it Halloween. First day of Samhain. Samhain is a 2-month period. Wait, hang on a second. Excuse me, it's about 3 months. It's about 90 days because it goes through January. Yeah, it goes all the way to Imbolc, aka Candlemas, on the 1st of February. So it's like some of the 3 darkest months of the year. So this is a time in the Northern Hemisphere where the sun is not as strong. Now think about the sun. The sun actually drowns out, what we call paranormal phenomenon. So, in the old days, they used to tell Christmas ghost stories. And this is because in the darker months of the year, you can perceive things like ghosts. Energy work tends to be more powerful because, the sun is the jealous God of the Bible, of the Old Testament, that says, I will abide no other gods but me. Well, during the daytime, during the summer, the sun's stealing everyone's show, especially during the day. You can't see the stars and planets, which are also gods. So the jealous God drowns them out with light. So it's like this in the summer too, but when the sun goes south, below the equator, relative to our perspective, we feel the spirit world more. We feel the presence of non-physical beings. The spirits of our ancestors are closer. And then, in mythology, it was said that Odin used to walk the earth during the winter to test the character of men, of mortals, not just males, because men is a genderless word, but of adult males and females, of humans. So Odin walks the earth to test the character of men, and he travels as an old man who's, he has to knock on people's doors and say, hey, can I spend the night and can you feed me? In the old days, hospitality was a big thing. So the idea was that if people treated this god in disguise well, they incurred, blessings. And if they treated him poorly, they would pay for it. So you know, this Samhain, it's this time of the year where the spirit world is closer to us. It can be felt more. Energy works more intense. And that's when our character is tested. So, really cool time of the year. It's really my favorite time of the year because, you know, we just have to sort of deal with ourselves instead of, you know, going out in a boat all summer and, you know, throwing drinks back at the beach. You know what I mean? It's like, don't get me wrong, you can have a lot of fun in the summer, but people with their merrymaking can get manic. And when they get manic, they're not dealing with the way they feel. And they like to get manic, and they like to party in a manic kind of a way, so they don't have to deal with their feelings and deal with themselves. You know, winter, you turn inward. So I really like that time of the year. All right, I'm going to shoot my mouth off. Yeah, I like doing this much better than recording and editing and compressing the video file. So, hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later.